Hello and welcome to the Lake Effect Podcast, Barrie and Muskoka's fine home building and cottage building podcast. We're shooting today from Sandbox Center, downtown Barrie. We're here with Joe Green from Computer Elite. This podcast is aimed more at the businesses in Barrie and Muskoka. And Joe's been providing us services for many years now. I'll let him introduce himself. So Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
We're going to go through your history, some of the products and services that you offer. So we'll jump right into it. Where did the company come from, and what kind of services are you providing?
Sure. Well, thanks, Mike. We started in 2002, over 20 years ago, and on a very gentle level, just getting into helping some of the local businesses that were just barely using tech, using the internet here and there to look things up and research. And then we've sort of grown through the stages with everyone. We've added services as we've gone. Many of the services that we started with, are just basic, and then all the way up to where we are now, and we're quite an involved company now.
So to highlight the services you provide, so you provide hardware, we know that. Mm-hmm. You provide business technical advice and consulting. So any business that's growing, that's trying to, get the technical component of their company together, mm-hmm. you're providing those services. Mm-hmm. Some of this I speak from experience, just so the viewers know that we've used your services for many years. We've had options.
Right, you're actually a very good customer of ours.
Yeah, we've tried other people. We've tried other ways of doing things. We've compared against other kind of friends who run companies locally and abroad. And so I'm speaking from a certain amount of experience, but I'm certain we don't use every service that you guys offer, so just jump in any time if there's something I'm missing here. So technical services, so remoting in, dealing with the employees, the owners, the customers, and issues that they might have in communicating with the company.
Right, we'd call that a help desk support, where day-to-day issues, if a printer's not printing, or there's, any given, a program won't open, or that type of thing. So that's the day-to-day stuff that we help with.
Okay, because I think the days of taking the printer to the parking lot and hitting it with a baseball bat are over.
Sometimes that's our recommendation.
Yeah, that can get expensive fast. Then on-site and backup solutions. So some companies are very data heavy. They have to maintain databases, or they have to maintain records. And they would be concerned about the data storage, and I think you guys provide those services.
Right, and if their internet's not good enough that we can do off-site, we want to do something on-site, or if we can do both, if we ever have to do a recovery in the event of a crypto virus on their network or whatever, if we have a local NAS box on their local network, that helps us to be able to do a quick recovery back. But the off-site stuff is good. If servers got stolen, or a fire happened, or a tornado or something like that took the building out, we would have that data off-site so that it's protected.
The other service that I know there's a lot of options, and we're constantly pulled for those options, and we found that the service, the best part about dealing with Computer Elite sometimes is the fact that you've vetted all of the options that are out there.
Correct.
And you choose the one that suits I would say medium-sized businesses best. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's a balance between price and functionality, and you'll recommend when what you're offering isn't the right thing. And I find you and Dee, are very good at that.
Right.
So just so the viewers know, Dee's your wife and partner.
Operations manager. She probably almost does more in the business. Well, she definitely does more in the business day to day now than what I do. And I'm looking at expanding. I do that end of things as a CEO. I'm on that visionary path, but Dee does the day-to-day, and she does all the scheduling and just oversees everything that goes on within the business.
So she's a what I'd call in times of frustration, a voice of reason. Let's put it that way.
Right. Okay. Right. That's right. Feet on the ground. Yeah.
So where I was going with that is voice over IP, which has become, I would say, in a lot of businesses, in most businesses, voice over IP is more standard these days than a copper line.
It definitely is. And the service, again, that we provide, you had said, that we try to apply the right service and the right fit for the business, depending on what that is and what that looks like. And that's exactly what we're doing, even with the IP phone system. We use the same systems that we put into people's organizations. So it's not like we're just researching things and throwing something at someone. We've used it. We have multiple branches, multiple locations, and so we have to have the systems in place that work day in and day out.
What I found one of the best aspects of being a medium-sized business and dealing with Computer Elite is the quite often when you have problems, you work under the assumption, or people kind of jump to the most negative thing, which is, oh, you set me up with this thing, and now you're going to charge me to fix the problems that you created. I've never felt that way with Computer Elite. I think you walk into it with a very positive sort of direction when it comes to tech, and if there are problems, what I found is 99% of the time it's like pilot error.
Yeah, a lot of times it's what we call a picnic problem in chair, not in computer. So yeah, that's definitely, that can be an issue, is that, it's operator. But if we have gone in and done something, if I've said to you, use this printer and use this networking device and so on and get you all set up, and something that we've done doesn't work together or doesn't work right, that's at our cost, because we're learning going forward for other businesses. So we're not afraid to, I don't ever want to use people as a guinea pig, but if we've put something in that doesn't work, we want to make sure that we make that work right, because for ourselves going forward, that's important. And sometimes we have to pay because of that.
Well, I found that, sometimes you don't, it's not, something can't be proven or isn't proven or hasn't been used, or like in technology, often things, you are the first person to do something, in one specific way, or use a product, or first person in the area maybe to use a product. And I find that your approach to it, doesn't make you feel, we don't feel like that we're not learning along with you.
Right.
So the other thing is CCTV, security camera system. So in the time dealing with Computer Elite, we've been through the gamut from, going at Alibaba and ordering a system for...
I remember that.
Yes. Okay.
How did that work out?
As you said it would, right? It was a good temporary solution. Really, the problem with Nest wireless cameras, using security systems that are like off-the-shelf security systems and not necessarily don't have a pro grade to them, is they tend to work just fine until something happens.
Right.
And it's when something happens, like the power goes out or there's a storm, and then the moment where you needed the security footage, you don't have it.
Right.
The one time that you need the security footage, you don't have it.
On that, we went down, we had a break-in happen at a place, and they went down the street to get video surveillance, and everybody who had 2.4 gigahertz wireless cameras was cut. They blocked it. These people that came in and did this blocked those wireless cameras. So we do wired systems for that reason, that, that's at least one aspect that we're trying to cover off. But we've actually had that where the police couldn't get footage all the way down the road until they got to the business that we had put in, and they were able to access their cameras, and they didn't get blocked.
I got you. So I mean, on-site self-contained data storage with a DVR is a direction that, we knew we had to go when we couldn't afford it. Right. Now, we always had a proper CCTV system. I think the power supply was from like an old Lionel train set or something. It was like a big transformer box, and you spark the wires, that type of thing. So Jason, who's your lead tech, right?
Yep.
He came in and he said, okay, fine, well, I'll help you get that working for now. So we had that system, and he helped us get that system working for a time period, but at least the recording was local. The only problem with that system is as soon as there's a power outage, you don't have cameras. Right. We found that the current CCTV system, I believe it's on a battery backup.
Yes.
We've had a couple power outages, and we still have.
And it'll stay up for quite a while.
Yeah.
Yep. A number of hours.
Okay. Well, I find that, most people put these systems in thinking, we're protecting the business, or we're trying to like identify a burglar or something. But I find that those systems for any business owners who are watching, the main purpose and the main thing it allows you to do is when you have a safety situation or a safety compromise or something like that, you can review the footage. So we had an accident many years ago where people went against their training basically and did something that they shouldn't have done. And of course they denied it. Somebody got hurt, and we had to go through the footage, and we had to show them, look, we can see that this is happening. And then you can have an open discussion about it. You don't necessarily have to let somebody go. You're not trying to like put them on trial, but you need them to have their realization of when it's funny when somebody sees a dangerous situation from the outside and it's them in that situation, they can usually say, "Oh, wow, I could see from
that wasn't right."
From that point of view.
Yeah.
So
it's a great teacher that way for sure.
It is, and it prevents that prevents future safety compromises. So I found that
we use it for smaller things too. We use it for like, did that employee actually not come in until 2:00 in the afternoon after lunch, and we go back and they're like, oh, they came in and the other person just didn't see them come in, or a stock amount. The guys are unpacking boxes. Well, did we get 2 hard drives or did we get 4? They said we got 4. We only got 2. We go back and we can see we only took 2 out of the box. So there's a whole lot of other little things.
When I worked in British Columbia many years ago, we had a drywaller a drywall supply company kept sending us bills for 11 skids of drywall, and it was the camera footage that identified that every truck only had 9 skids of drywall.
There you go.
Could you imagine the cost to my boss?
That's a lot of money. Sure. Yep.
So, okay. The main component I think that's sort of worth discussing, or things that we should definitely have a conversation with, cybersecurity. Okay,
it's a big one right now.
It is, and it keeps kind of growing in concern. So I see that there's kind of 2 approaches to this. One is to wait till something really bad happens.
Wait, there's another one besides that? That's the ones I usually get.
Well, there's this idea
we get these panic calls, and it's like, I haven't got email for 2 days, and we go in and we look, and oh, you've been breached, and so. That's a big problem because the hacker actually puts in, we just had it yesterday with another customer that this is the second time, and each time we've told them use 2-factor authentication. So not one size fits all, and I can't give one solution for every single thing that's going to happen out there, but there are certain things that all come into your environment and go, this is very important and it's worth your money to spend. It's not a sales ploy. It's literally trying to get you to do something that's really going to save you down the road. But these hackers put downloading utilities on the Office 365 and download all of the emails. So now we stop the breach, we close them out. Hopefully we can convince you to put 2-factor authentication because they won't get in. If your phone's asking you, is it you, and it's not you, you're not going to say yes. So they have no access in there. That stops that problem, but people still won't do it, and I'm not sure what the reason. I think it's just maybe they don't know or understand. But anyway, now
is cost part of it, or
no? It's really not. No, because cost. Man, as soon as it gets breached, now that hacker in the background here from yesterday even has all of that data, and they're going to process through those emails, and they're going to find things. If they find a customer that they dealt with a week ago, they can send emails to that customer that makes it feel like it's them because there's intricate details in those emails. So letting this information out is, you don't want to do that. That's a really hard thing to come back from.
So I find some people, that who have street smarts, let's say, what they want to do is they want to try and apply those street smarts, in a medium-sized company where you have, let's say, between 25 and 100 employees, okay? The owner, the manager, the IT director, the chief, innovation officer, whatever they're calling themselves, they might have street smarts, but transmitting that street smarts down to every single person who's in the company, who's using email, who's accessing the company information can be extraordinarily difficult.
Right.
And even if you can transmit that level of street smarts, when I say street smarts, I mean you're looking for a misspelled email, a request that doesn't seem right, or you have policies in place that no money goes out until it goes through this one person or what have you. Okay, even having street smarts, you still have somebody who's trying to do a job other than just look for fraud. So they might be shipping, or they might be loading something, or they might be producing something, and the technology is there to aid them, and they're leaning on it like a crutch, and they're using it. And they're not going, even if they have the street smarts, they're not necessarily going to employ them. And so I agree with you. I'm just trying to agree with you.
Right.
That putting in a couple layers so that somebody really has to trip hard before they compromise a company's information.
Right.
It's worth it.
So that is, cybersecurity training is the best thing. And the problem being in our industry that people will say on your insurance form, if you're going to do cybersecurity insurance, it will say, do you do training? And so what people will do, I need to do training. So they look it up and they'll send their people out and they'll go through a course and they'll do a 2-day thing or whatever. And then a year from now, or even 6 months, that's long gone. So many daily things have come up that, that cybersecurity training's gone. The system that we offer and you guys use, and you've actually found great value in it recently, is once a month you get a video in your email and a link to a video, and then there's 4 questions after. It's a 4-minute video. It's an animated video. We'll put
I'll actually bring it up here.
Yeah, we'll put a shot up on it there. Yeah, so it's a 4-minute.
It was obviously made in Japan, right? This has got to be Japanese animation. Is it Japanese animation?
No, I think it's Australian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's made in Australia, I believe.
Well, geographically close enough, I guess, but...
Anyway, so a 4-minute video, and it's an animated video, and literally they took Sony got hacked a while back, and it was when they put that film out for Kim Jong-un, and they got hacked, and it was by China that they got hacked. And so the cybersecurity training goes through exactly what happened in that hack, but they say Sony Pictures instead of Sony for copyright purposes, I'm sure. But they literally go through that whole, and so every month you're getting something that's a pertinent bit of information, and it's keeping it on top of mind for your employees and for your staff.
What I found is, because I'm taking I haven't completed it, obviously, and it's designed specifically so you cannot rush through it and complete it. So I think it's playing to human psychology. It's giving you a drip. Okay.
Right.
And the first couple videos you watch, and it's like, man, this is obvious. If somebody shows up at my door, and says, you have to do something. It's totally illegal. Send me money. Meet me in a parking lot or something crazy. You're like, okay, obviously
in a dark
that's
alley.
yeah. Okay. So, but then it slowly, as you do the episodes or components or modules, whatever you call them, you start to identify things that are more and more complex and have more catches, and it really is teaching you how to see those catches.
Right.
So the point that I'm up to is the one where it's teaching you about accessing things on home networks.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Like putting the password in your kid's iPhone to let them play a game, and then now that's in there, and whatever apps are on that.
Correct. Yes.
Right.
So we instituted a policy, and it was of our own sort of learning process, is to only do company business on company devices, unless it's extremely simplified communication like text and things like that.
So what's another one that's really big that happens out there is cell phones. Even in this place, but I'm sure they have the right networking in place. Many, many companies allow their employees to connect to the business data network with their cell phones. You can't tell me that every app on your cell phone is actually good and not mischievous or not damaging in any way. Even if the app is made well and it is made from a good person, what if someone else buys that now and they're using that to get into the company network and have all of the company secrets, all the documents, everything there on that network? So having public Wi-Fi that is in place that only your employees can use for their cell phones, they can only connect their cell phones to that public Wi-Fi, and it doesn't touch your data network. Protect the data network. It's very important. Very, very important piece.
It depends on, I guess, somebody's perspective as far as the type of company they're running. So somebody who might be watching this might be, let's say, running a dealership of some kind, selling, cars, snowmobiles, farm equipment, whatever it is. Okay. And they have a showroom, and they're going to have a sales data component to their business. And they have to protect their data in a certain way that I wouldn't know because I don't run a business like that.
Sure.
Our business is a manufacturing business. And if you can imagine, in manufacturing glass, you have many computer-controlled machines.
Right.
Those computer-controlled machines, some of them need to be linked to each other. So one machine knows what the other machine is doing. So
where it's at in the process.
Yeah. To give you a very specific example, we have 2 CNC machines that are identical, but the person who programs the CNC program as it runs the router program is from one computer. Okay. So they need to be linked together.
Right.
Okay,
right.
They're linked through our intranet, and it's not a term that you hear very often. Can you describe the difference between internet and intranet?
Is internal. It's your intranet is inside, and it's behind a security gateway or a firewall. So you've got the internet on one side, and you've got you on the other side, and you've got something to break that in between. So you're all internal on an intranet as opposed to external on an internet.
You're a sharp guy, Cale. Have you've heard those two terms?
I've never heard of intranet.
Oh,
The internet.
We're old. Joe and I are old, so
yeah, old school.
okay. So a company like ours, what we required was to have everything communicating as if it's communicating by Wi-Fi, how most people know it these days. Okay, a signal sent wirelessly or wired to a central location where data is processed and then resent out from device to device, or from a device to the control program back to that device. Now, the intranet, the advantage of an intranet is that the Wi-Fi can go, or not the Wi-Fi, sorry, the internet can go down, but the whole factory can still function.
Right.
Okay, because things are still communicating with each other, but they're doing it through an internal process rather than an external process.
Yep.
I would say that there's a limited amount of companies in the Simcoe-Muskoka region who could accomplish something like that. Many of the manufacturing facilities would need to bring people from the outside, and I would say that Computer Elite successfully has executed a proper intranet in our manufacturing facility.
You have a really nice picture of Jason up on a scissor lift. That is your factory.
Okay, let's pull it up.
Now, we don't get to see much in this picture. We only get to see
which one is
ceiling. It's him up on a scissor lift.
What's the
it'd be networking.
Networking, perfect. Yeah. Okay. So this is accurate glass. That is a just for safety's sake, an annually certified scissor lift with a guy who's properly tied off on a scissor lift.
And he is also trained and certified on scissor lift.
Yes, we can talk to him later about the safety glasses. But so this is this has become a typical situation for us, and anybody who's there's now a lot of companies actually located, let's say Gravenhurst, Bracebridge, Huntsville, as rent and the cost of real estate has gotten very expensive in places like Aurora and Newmarket. There's companies who've moved up here. There's companies here who are locally have grown, which is us. So our company, Accurate Glass, started in Sean's basement, in 1988. And previously in 1969 on in a little 2,000 square foot.
You're not that old, Mike.
No, not me, but the company. No, I'm not that old. Yeah.
So started very small, and
yes.
We've been with you through a lot of the stages of growth, which has been exciting. If we're I want to speak Accurate Glass, some of the stuff here for sure, because it's been fun, but it's also, you're one piece of that puzzle for us. It's exciting for us to go in and apply technologies to business. It's really fun and exciting. You probably do the same thing in glass stuff. It's really neat to go in and make a place look gorgeous with the glass work that you guys do. That's kind of a passion that we have. We really enjoy going in and cleaning stuff up and making the security where it needs to be and helping businesses. We're not here to hurt anybody, and not as a promotional thing either, because we have a lot of business going on. It's not like we have to get out there and promote. There's so much technology and so much need for good technology out there that it comes to us very naturally, very organically.
Well, it's been an organic situation for sure. I mean, what we've had to do is adjust over time to the type of equipment that we operate. So, I mean, when we originally started there, we were doing everything, a carbon copy triplicate, right?
Right.
And how you got orders out to the floor was you pin them to the wall, right? Okay. Over time, what I found is that the advantage of working with Computer Elite is, first of all, you have a very stable labor force. So the same guys that I've been was dealing with 5 years ago, I'm dealing with now.
Jason's been there for 22 years. Jarrett's been there for 17 years. Most of the guys have been there for 10.
So what that means is that over time, it's a shared experience, and we're able to say, hey, you remember we did this thing and it worked really good, and then we took it out, we want to put it back again or get a new version of that, or we'll discuss an idea like when our factory started off. Our factory was 8,000 square feet, and the big move for us was to increase that to 26,000 square feet, and to have to rewire everything and have to know that all of the machines that we worked with in the past they didn't have any digital control, but all of the machines that we were going to move in the future all needed a wireless or a wired connection.
Right.
They all had data. You had an internal computer. We needed to send DXF drawings to each machine. and we needed to be able to control that from the office. So it might be worth actually describing. So we decided to embark on a sort of a new level at Accurate Glass, and you guys are in the process of helping us do that. As far as the way we process data, do you want to talk about that at all? You guys are basically taking us from a point where our control is on a desktop computer, and we're going to move that to a data center.
Yeah, just let me refer to Dee on this one. She's really deep in it with you guys on it. I know that there's a brand new server going in, and I know that it's a pretty hefty server that we're doing. It's actually on one of the tech benches right now, and we're allowing your software company in there to get everything set up before we bring it on site to you, so that it's all ready to go once we bring it in and set it up.
Yes. So it depends on what type of business somebody's running, but in our business, there's the administrative control, which a lot of the administrative control type software is, let's call it, in the cloud. Mm-hmm. And you need good equipment. You need to be able to have good internet connection, of course, which you guys have helped us with.
I think we put fiber in there, didn't we?
What happened is we took over the building from Toronto Star, and they had run fiber, and then they had abandoned the building. Well, they sold it to us, and they abandoned that connection, and you guys were able to trace down the people to talk to, how to transfer that connection to us.
Right.
So it was basically, we bought a farmhouse that was next to a 6-lane highway.
Right.
And we were like, can you make us an off-ramp?
Right, exactly.
And so that worked out very well.
Mm-hmm. That was a part of the expansion into that building, a big part of it.
Yes. And so we're now at the point where administrative control can be done with programs that are like in the cloud, and where really it's more about the persons who's manipulating those administrative programs do it from a laptop or a really good computer. But there's an internal database control required for manufacturing, because you can imagine we're making thousands of pieces of glass, sometimes thousands a day. But each one of those pieces is custom. Mm-hmm. Okay, each needs its own identifier, like a fingerprint, and you need to track and trace all of this stuff to make sure that it gets fabricated.
Each piece represents a customer, and somebody's waiting for that glass to come. So you need to know where it is and at what stage it's at. Right?
Correct.
And if something happens, if there's a problem and a piece gets broken on the line or something, that it can get put right back in again. Like, there's things like that can happen, right?
Yeah. So what we can't do is we can't trust that data to be in the cloud or into an outside space. That data needs to be manipulatable, accessible, and controllable
on site,
on
premise.
Yes, and what happened is we outgrew the hardware that the hardware we were using was basically a very expensive or very well-appointed gaming computer.
Right.
Okay, it had a lot of capability. It was very fast.
We say gaming, but what that means is it's got fast drives, it's got fast video, it's got everything to process things quickly. So it doesn't have to be gaming, but those gaming rigs are built to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we're moving to the next level, which is what you're describing on your bench.
Right.
is a proper server.
A fully fledged, I'll give Lenovo a plug there. So we are a Lenovo authorized service provider, and we have been for years. We've got a great connection with them. Lenovo is just phenomenal product. If you didn't use Computer Elite and you were wondering, should I buy one of the other brands out there, and not to knock them, but I would not put any money anywhere at this point in the game but Lenovo, just because they have the same price point, but it's phenomenal. It's the old IBM.
Yeah, I was going to say,
the old IBM Think series. It's still all Think products. It's still called Think, but it's Lenovo.
Okay, well, I mean, there's a ThinkPad sitting right here. It seems
right.
to work well, very stable.
Yeah, no blue screens yet, not today.
Yeah, fair enough. So, okay, so the next subject I kind of want to discuss is cybersecurity obviously is a very important topic, and when does a company decide that it needs help and it doesn't need help? So there was I used to live in British Columbia, and there was a guy who was running a disaster restoration business, and I said, how did you get into this business? He's like, well, because I seem to thrive, or his skill was that when people are really in need or they're flustered, that's when I come in. I seem to be able to do a good job. I'm like, how do you learn how to do that? And he said, being a marriage counselor. And I'm like, well, why didn't you just stick with marriage counseling? And he said, because the people who could afford me wouldn't listen to me, and the people who would listen to me couldn't afford me.
Right.
So I had to go manage another disaster.
Right.
Okay, so I know that you're going to make that sort of connection. Is that, when do you call in somebody to help control cyber breaches or technology breaches, and when do you put up a good wall? So I'm sure everybody knows the adage, Noah built the ark before the storm.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So what we saw from our company, I'll give you our company's experience, and then you tell me, how standard this is. We were doing an exchange with a company. We were providing them a service. We needed to get paid. We asked them to pay us. Somebody had hacked their emails. They were not using Microsoft Exchange for emails. Somebody hacked their emails. We got a request from their email to send money with banking instructions. At the time, we did not have a policy that any banking instructions or any financial exchange requires a voice phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that in some point in the future, voice phone calls won't be duplicatable.
Mimicked, 100%.
Yeah.
AI is starting to do that to us, I think.
Yeah, but I think we're still a distance away.
We are.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
At some point, we'll just have to go back to cash. But but at this
Gold.
point, yes, low tech. But at this point, we were communicating with this customer by email, and what happened is the money got directed to a different bank account, and our bank flagged it.
Oh.
Okay. And then in the end, the customer said, we paid you $40,000, and we're like, we received $0.
Right.
Right. We received $0. Okay. And then we came to, because I knew that customer for many years, I knew him for about 20 years from a previous life. Eventually the bank was able to seize about $35,000. There was a $5,000 split between us. And at that point we were like, we don't want the same thing to happen to us. Mm-hmm. So we saw, what's that expression? A smart person learns from his mistakes. A genius learns from the mistakes of others. So I was trying to follow the smartest path I could and improve things. When do you usually see a company?
It's important to watch around us and make sure that we're paying attention to what's happening to others. And so for us, we're in so many different businesses, over 650 local businesses that we service in a big way. And so, we get to see all this cross section of things that are going on, and probably right now the biggest thing's email breaches, but or security breaches, which are caused from human error. Most of it is caused from human error. But the problem that we face, the biggest problem that we face with helping companies, and it's not about us, it's about really getting in and helping small businesses to have what they need and to do what they need to do, is people don't take the time to listen, but more so, I think it's a gray area. They're not sure about that technology or all these words that are being said. And we try to break it down pretty simple for people, but they're not sure about it. So it's like, oh, I can't do that Monday morning, forget it. And it just gets pushed off a lot because it's difficult to grasp or it's difficult to understand. And boy, we're here to really help understand, have the conversations with us. It's not bothersome. It's more bothersome when it gets pushed off and it doesn't get done. And then the breach happens and then we're scurrying. We're like, okay, instantly we got to drop everything that we're doing and get in and help that customer, even though we had a bunch of other things lined up for other customers that day. So it throws us into a little bit of a spin.
Are you talking about a security breach or a tech failure?
It could be
or
any
both.
of those. That's the thing. There's no, one solution fits all. If you're running a really old server and no data backups, then it could be that server failed and now we can't get your data back, or we have to send it out for data recovery, which is very expensive. And it's a longer process. It's 4 days that we're going to be getting everything back. But if we could have got in there beforehand and you had to replace that server as we had recommended, and many times I have email after email where this is our recommendation, but it gets ignored. I think it gets taken as a sales ploy, and it's not at all. If I say something to you, it's because you need it, and you can check me on that. Call me, come and visit me, look me in the eyes and say, are you serious? Are you just taking my money? Go ahead. I'm not ever there to take your money. I have nothing to hide that way. So that's the company that we are, but we want to get to people before the problems happen.
Do you offer to new customers or to existing customers for that, to offer like an assessment service?
That's what I do. A lot of what I do. Jason's taking a lot of that role now with assessing things as well. But a big part of what I do is I'll deal with either new customers coming in or existing customers that really need a good overview of what's going on.
Okay, so one thing we haven't talked about, which I'd like to, is when we have trouble, because there is trouble from time to time. We'll see if there's, you've got a picture here. Okay, so if I can describe what happens, when somebody's a regular customer of Computer Elite. So let's say I have a problem. I mean, I've had a problem where maybe my laptop won't download, one of the key pieces of software that we use, industry-specific software, and I just want somebody to look at it because it's beyond my knowledge, maybe a setting or something, or
it won't install or whenever. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so what happens? I get on the line with your tech department. It was very easy to reach. Call your main number.
Yep.
Ask for
press 2 for tech.
2 for tech, and then usually I get somebody on the other end of the line. Let's say Logan, or whoever it is at that day, and they'll say, "Okay, well, let me see what you see." And so you just go to your website. Very simple. Yep. Go to remote support. This page comes up.
Code, yeah.
Give me a code, and then you're now in my computer, safe, secure, and we're able to talk over the phone, seeing the same thing.
Correct.
Back to marriage counseling. This is like a stress reliever.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, it's a tech service, but it's like now I don't have to wait for you to come and show up and then try and explain what's happening. And the fact that you guys are willing to do this, and you're willing to sort of do it at a drop of a hat. I know it's probably an expensive service for you guys to provide, and like you said, it probably interrupts work and workflow and everything else. We do the same for our customers. Mm-hmm. Our customer orders 1,000 pieces, and we produce one piece wrong, okay, out of 1,000, and then we ship it to Ottawa.
Right.
And some guy's up on the 30th floor of a building, and they're installing, and it's 1 inch short.
Doesn't fit.
Yeah. Okay. We'll get the phone call. As far as the customer is concerned, it was 1 out of 1,000, but to them, it's 100% of that
right
job.
Now, it's the stoppage of what needs to go on.
That job.
It's the same with the software.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we'll just drop everything. We'll produce that one piece. We'll drive it ourselves if we have to overnight. We'll do whatever we have to do. Okay. So this party, obviously, we don't like to get abused. We don't want somebody to drop a piece of glass and then call us and say we made it wrong.
Right.
And at the same time, you probably don't want to have somebody drop what they're doing, log on, you spelled your name wrong when you're entering your username.
Well, that's okay. It happens. That's that kind of stuff. That just makes it easier for us if it's just a simple error like that. The ones that are tough are the ones where people have gone in and they've really tried to figure it out, and it's a difficult situation. And now we're getting the call, and that's fine. That's good. I'm glad that people do the research and try to fix it. And then now we're having to really do a lot of work to make that thing work. Not because of what they've done, just because it's a problem. Like, it's got a deep problem. Maybe the thing has to come in and be, reformatted and Windows reloaded on it, or, whatever the situation is. But
okay. Yeah, it's a very, very good part of your service.
Right. So the call in, when you call in, and having someone remote into your computer, you feel is a really good thing, obviously, and we know that it is. It saves us having to send someone out, but there are times when things are doing things in environments that we want to look at more things in the environment, and so boots on the ground lets us put somebody there and actually see why this is happening and when, and be more connected to your computer and your internet and your, being able to see more of it on the ground. And there's times with internet problems, for instance, that we can't remote into your computer because your internet's down. We have to send boots on the ground. So we don't like to, and we would just assume I'm far better off to just have people remote in. But the service that we offer, coming on site and getting that visual, is very important at times. We establish, this is really needing an on-site. We kind of do it that way. We're like, can we remote in? If we can, yeah, good, let's remote in. No, that needs an on-site. Okay, we need to schedule an on-site and get somebody in there. And that's harder for us, but it's important at times just to get it resolved and resolved properly. We like to fix it, leave, and it's fixed for good. That's the ultimate goal in what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate the fact that you guys have a very measured way of deciding whether to send somebody in person or not, or how urgent something is, or how things can get solved.
You know what the best part is? You can usually in situations trace the dollar and go, that's why that's happening. But in our case, you won't. It's never going to, we have to make money to stay in business, but it's never going to rely on, we make more money sending people on site, so we're going to send a bunch of people on. We absolutely will not interfere, will not reflect the dollar. You won't be able to chase that back, because there's times when we absolutely could have done so much better in a situation. But that's not what's best for the customer. So we go this route, and that's what's best for the customer. And we'll get that back somewhere down the road. They'll use us for more services, and our name alone will shine.
I 100% agree. I mean, I as a business owner, and I would hope that some of the other business owners that you deal with realize that, we try to stay loyal so that we can reward you guys for the times where you couldn't bill us for something, yet you solved a huge problem. You actually cut the problem off before it became a problem to your own detriment because you couldn't charge us for something. So what we want to remember that down the line and make sure that we remain loyal. And what I found is that over time, it's made us better, knowing that we can rely on Computer Elite.
I appreciate that.
So before we wrap this, why don't you describe how far afield you go? What's your service area? What's where would you like more customers? And what area do you want to grow into?
Obviously, it's all business focused. We do have a fairly large residential group, and I think that they're employees of businesses that have an issue at home, and so they'll call us or they'll bring their stuff in, or they'll shop at one of our locations in Barrie, Orillia, Midland. But our main focus is on business and doing all those business tech things. And so out of that, the residential people like it as well, and the home users like it because they're getting that business level tech. So they're getting good guys that way. As far as the area goes, in the remote end of things, we can remote in pretty much anywhere. And so we've done things in Africa. We've done things, sort of around the globe that way, where companies have other branches elsewhere and we're able to remote in. We can't put boots on the ground there. We have some Alberta customers. We have our local servicing area, I would say, is Toronto to Huntsville, roughly, Collingwood out that way. Yeah, and so that's
so if somebody's because there are Collingwood is a service area of ours, Halliburton service areas. I would say Huntsville is probably a future location of ours. We currently have like a sub office there, but eventually we'd like to have some display space and manufacturing of some kind in Huntsville. And those communities seem to be, because the rents got so high in the GTA. There are companies similar to us. That have spaces that are, let's say, 5,000 to 30,000 square feet. And it's nice to know that you're interested in growing in the same direction.
Well, you said the GTA, but even the BTA, the Barrie area, is getting very expensive. So I guess it should be called the BTA now.
It is. And if you look around us, I mean, it's what do you see north of here? There's a lot of forest, right? So
yeah.
There's probably a few spots where some industry is going to develop.
So exciting news, though. January, February of 2026, so just this next year coming up, we're going to start our expansion down into Kitchener, Guelph, Waterloo, and Cambridge. And we're going to do exactly the same thing as what we've done up here. There's a big need for what we do.
Yes.
And the way that we do it. And so it's getting the right people down there and training. And so I'll be spending a lot of time down there when we first put our Kitchener technical facility, and that'll be the second tech facility. We only tech in one location. So Barrie, Orillia, Midland all dump the product back into. If you bring a laptop into Midland, it comes down that night and it's in the tech room the next morning. So we have a really nice pattern for bringing machines back and forth. But we have a centrally located tech facility, and so now we're going to do a second one of those in Kitchener and then locations around it.
And why Kitchener? Because it's a big manufacturing base in Kitchener.
I guess I have to go into the God thing for that. It was literally just something that I was given as a vision, and I guess more or less that's going to help us to surround the GTA before we would ever consider moving into it. Allow us to have a lot more stock in those locations and build the business up. I didn't just want to jump into the GTA. It's a big thing of its own. It's a very, very big.
Yeah, same for us. I mean, we try to service the north. And what happens, we have customers who are from Toronto. I mean, I was born in Toronto. I know Toronto quite well.
I was Oakville. I grew up in Oakville.
You grew up in Oakville. Okay, so we try to service the north. We don't want to fight the traffic. We don't want to necessarily compete with 1,000 people. We'll compete with 100 people instead.
Right.
So our customers draw us down there. So from time to time we end up in the GTA, but we prefer, to remain in Barrie and Muskoka. You got to focus on something. That's what we choose to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
But we're aware of, Kitchener, Waterloo, Guelph. There's a good, technological base.
There is.
Yeah, in those areas, there's lots of factories. There's lots of production in those. I'm sure that what you do for us, you can do for other companies in those locations.
In those locations, we're hoping that's what the case is going to be.
So as we grow north, because we're like I said, we're trying to get something started in Huntsville that's more substantial than just an office. That you guys will join us and help us set up there.
We will be there. I can promise you that.
Awesome. Okay, thank you very much, Joe.
Thanks, Mike.
No problem. So you're a tech guy. So before I wrap this, Kale, you got any questions here? This.
No, man, I think I learned everything I need to learn on this podcast.
So do either of you guys know who Gary Kildall is? You ever heard of No?
Bob Kildall's brother.
Sorry, you're right. Bob Kildall. Is it Bob Kildall?
No, I don't know.
No. I thought his name was Gary Kildall. Gary Kildall, I think, was the guy who originally developed Windows, if I remember correctly.
Oh.
And he did a bunch of, they didn't call them podcasts back then, but he did like a tech program that was very popular and only watched by tech people until about 1985 or 86 when he died in a plane crash. He crashed his airplane. He's a private pilot and he crashed his airplane. But
I probably should know who that is, but I don't.
Fair enough. I've watched.
Fact checked it. You're right.
What am I right about?
Gary Kildall.
Gary Kildall. Yeah.
What did he develop? Windows?
Or DOS. Maybe it was DOS.
See, DOS.
Yeah.
Bill Gates kind of got to the punchline on DOS. He was developing it with somebody else, and he got the missing component and went and patented or licensed it prior to the other guy and kind of pushed him out. That was a bad thing to start the whole thing off. It started off on not a friendly thing.
That might have been Gary Kildall. But if you get a chance, you look up his name on YouTube. He used to do a tech program that, unless you're interested in tech, it was like, it's like
It'd be over most people's heads.
So hopefully anybody who's watched this thing for 40 some odd minutes, it's probably the person you want to attract. Really is a factory owner.
Yeah. Right? Yep. Businesses for sure. Businesses anywhere from I'll say 2 seats and up, but I mean even the single business starting out, we can help. But a lot of this area is 5 users. In these businesses that you see around us here, there's 5 users in those, and that's a very common environment. So 5 and then up, 50 in this area. When we get down towards Toronto, it'll be more of the hundreds probably. But
yeah, I mean we have perhaps 30 users, something like that, or some of it's like a single user interface in the shop, and somebody might rotate into that position.
You guys will be, from what I've seen, 60 people within well under 5 years, like within 4 years, as long as you've got the gas in your tank to keep pushing and do it. Every other business that we've worked with that has been at the 25 to 30 range is over 60 now.
Okay, well, we'll wrap here. I would suggest that anybody who's running a business in the Muskoka region or in Barrie, look up Computer Elite. We'll jump to their website here. The best way to contact you, I assume, is just Google Computer Elite.
Yeah.
And business IT support, which really hits the nail on the head, is what your focus is. And to give you a call, go to the contact page. And what I find is you guys have great support. You just pick up the 705-487-6595 and just take your pick where you start with. I assume sales would be a good part.
If that's what you need. If you just got breached, it might be tech.
Yeah, and if anybody watching wants to follow Joe's advice, don't wait until you're in jail looking for bail.
Man, please
don't wait till you're hacked.
I will bail you out, mind you, but yes.
Yeah, he'll come up with the bail money, but he'd prefer to just help you before you end up there. So thank you very much for being our guest.
Thanks, Mike.
And this was the Lake Effect Podcast at the Sandbox Center in downtown Barrie, and we'll see you in the next episode.